I'm Cindy Bertram. Thanks for joining me today on Extraordinary Not Ordinary. When the coronavirus hit in 2020, also known as COVID-19, a pause via cruise ships started, and this pause has continued since then for the past 15 months. But during this time period, cruise lines have worked extremely hard with top health and safety protocols experts, helping them create their own high-level safe and health measures into place once cruising was going to restart. And they also worked extremely hard, diligently hard as well with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, also known as CDC. And now cruise lines are beginning plans to restart cruising. Today I want to share more about one cruise line, Celebrity Cruises, that has actually restarted cruising successfully. They truly are extraordinary, not ordinary. Celebrity Cruises just did the restart of the Caribbean sailings on their Celebrity Millennium with their health and safety protocols into place. The Celebrity Millennium actually departed on June 5th out of St. Maarten with just 600 guests on board at 30% capacity. Normally this ship would handle about 2,100 guests, and this is a 7-night cruise out of St. Maarten to 3 different ports in the Caribbean. Some requirements for adult guests. They had to meet the requirements for entry into St. Maarten. This included proof of having the full vaccination, along with having a negative COVID-19 pre-cruise test done within 72 hours before embarkation. And at the cruise terminal, after showing proof of vaccination and the negative COVID-19 test, guests received wristbands that could proceed to the gangway. And then temperatures were taken, and guests were taken on board the ship to where their documents were reviewed. And they could also show their express pass if they did that in advance. Also, what they did was they were now, of course, vaccinations were required for all guests who are 16 years and older. This is going to change on August 1st, where guests 12 years and older have to show vaccinations and show their vaccination cards. Also, guests needed to show proof of a negative COVID-19 test that was no more than 72 hours old. As far as changes on board, this first sailing back, guests needed to complete an e-muster drill rather than doing the muster drill in person. Also, buffets are open, but they were no longer self-serve. Crew members were taking their plates for guests and then putting the food items on them too. As far as shore excursions, Celebrity did not require that their own ship-sponsored shore excursions were required unless the ports actually mandated that themselves. As far as wearing masks, these were not required for guests if they were fully vaccinated. Crew members, of course, have to wear masks on board. Celebrity did provide masks and hand sanitizers in their staterooms, also now additional hand sanitizing stations throughout the ship. As far as media requirements that St. Maarten has in place, of course, St. Maarten did require testing of all guests pre-boarding the ship 72 hours before showing a negative COVID-19 test. And that was also being done before they also had to re-entry to St. Maarten. Also, as far as the disembarkation protocol that Celebrity has put into place, on June 10th, all guests on the Celebrity Millennium had to also be retested for COVID-19. What came up is it turned out that when they were doing this test 3 days before the disembarkation, 2 guests actually tested positive. They were asymptomatic, showed no symptoms, but they were put into quarantine for the rest of the cruise and also retested. In addition, guests who were on the same shore excursion 2 days before, these 2 people that tested positive were told to stay in their staterooms, and one of the ship's nurses would actually come there and do a new COVID-19 test, which they did. And those guests were put into temporary isolation within their staterooms, but were able to order room service, etc. And the test results then showed that no other guests tested positive for COVID-19. So the guests disembarked in St. Maarten on Saturday, June 12th, and the 2 people that did test positive were flying home via private jet, according to Celebrity Cruises. As far as positives, this week-long cruise was not disrupted, and the guests who tested positive were then kept in quarantine for the rest of the cruise and retested. Also, with the contact tracing tools, guests who had been nearby the 2 guests who tested positive for COVID-19 also went through expedited testing themselves within a temporary quarantine within their individual staterooms. And these guests all tested negative, which was good. The Celebrity Millennium has sailed out again on schedule, June 12th, with a new group of 600 guests on board. And this demonstrates the safe return of cruising with health and safety protocols put into place and implemented. Thank you so much, Celebrity Cruises, for another example of really extraordinary, not ordinary, sharing positive, genuine efforts that people and companies do on their own, helping the world. Thanks again for joining me today on Extraordinary, Not Ordinary. Till next week, Cindy Bertram. Thank you.